Because the reality is, I'm going to be a top player one day. The commonalities, those things that every single pro player do well, I can't get to the top and have areas where I don't do well with the core skills. Now, this is where you need to take notes, but you need to do more than that. You then got to evaluate yourself, and then you're going to go, okay, what am I going to do about this? How do I go about making this better? And if it's good already, let's keep sustaining. So number one, core skill. We look at the first phase of tennis. Every point starts with a serve and a return. How capable are you serving a return? First serve, second serve. And we know the second serve is one of the most important stats. Points one off the second serve. So now, how do you do on your second serve? Maybe you got a killer first serve, but the second serve is not consistent, it's not solid, it's not precise. But I look at the pros, man, they're all serving well first and second. They're all returning well. Now yes, we have some great returners, but they're all very capable. Now think about it. If you don't start your point well, man, that's tough. In the modern game, it's all about the first three contacts. Who's controlling the first three contacts? Who's controlling the match? So you can't get to the top, and with first core skill, first phase control, we call it. We look also at serve and return. You can't get there and not be capable. Number two core skill. Now we're looking at the second phase, after the first three contacts. How good is your offense and defense? Now that could be in the first phase as well, but I'm breaking it down to offense and defense. Now, we see several players out there developing and working on a game that they're trying to hit all these winners, all these beautiful shots. But the reality is, a big part of every match, you're going to be called on defending. And something I learned about some of the greatest teams or players in history is that they're all top defenders. I follow Rugby World Cup every year. The winning team, the best defensive team. Best defensive players right now. And the men's side, Alcaraz, Sinner, Djokovic. No surprise there. But all we remember about those guys is the incredible winners that they hit. No, on your forehand, what's your offense like? Can you defend on that side? On the backhand side, what's your offense, what's your defense? So you do need to work on both guys. And we look at all the top players, and they can play offense and defense. They know when to take risks. They know when there's that moment in the match where they're just not giving anything for free. But then also, let's add to the second phase, the building ball. The ball that I can exist with, that I can survive with, that I'm building points, that I'm tactical about it. And I know I'm going to hit this ball 100 out of 100 times, and I understand how to have margin, I understand how to be precise. And we look at the pros, they all have it. Now it's true that some pros are not as good with their defense, and some are way better with maybe just their offense. But the reality is you need both. So in your planning, where do you rate? Are you doing something about your offense and your defense? And your building? Core skill number 3, you must have 2 physical weapons. If you get to the top and you don't have at least 2 weapons, it used to be 1 weapon, guys. But the game is so advanced now, you need to have 2 physical weapons. So you have to decide, what are my 2 weapons? And you might say, hey, I'm going to turn my serve into a weapon, maybe my return, maybe my forehand. But you must choose and start working on building these weapons. Number 4, core skill, transitioning. Look at the modern game. Highest percentage of points won, of matches won, are won by those individuals, those players that are baseline and forward with most of their contacts. So when you get a soft and a short ball, or you get hurt factor on the opponent, they're stretching, Are you getting court position? The way you go in the first phase, the second phase. Are you getting court position? Because we know that court position is what wins matches at the highest level. Transitioning also can work the other way. When I am controlling a point, this is tactical transitioning, but my opponent neutralizes me. Do I rebuild the point? So do I transition back into a building phase? Or do I stay offensive and just make a mistake? Number 5 core skill, variety and skills. Are you that player that builds a one-dimensional project? There's only one thing you're good at. You're only an aggressive baseliner. But now you get stuck against certain types of players in the draw. Or do you have variety? Can you do a little bit of everything? Can you play at the net? Can you play defense? Can you serve and volley? Can you play aggressive baseline? Can you counterpunch? Can you do a little bit of all these things? Because remember, those players that build like a one-story house, they sit back and enjoy it. 12, 13, 14 years old, because it's a very simple project. They just need to be good at one thing. But if you're a player that's going to build a skyscraper, you're not going to sit back and enjoy that skyscraper with a lot of variety, different ways of going about your game. I would rather have that player that matures around 18, 19, but they can do anything and they match up well against any type of player. And especially on a bad day, they have things that they can call on. So with skills and variety, we also need to talk about continental skills. Can you play a slice, a chip, drop shot? How are you at the net? A lot of us tend to neglect those things. Racket face control under skills and variety. Do you understand how to adapt your racket face in different situations when the contact is there, when the contact is here, here, maybe a low contact? Can you adjust your racket face? I look at the pros. They get a lot of applied pressure, they're in trouble, but they're always finding a way to make that shot. They're not just making the mistake. Now, number 6 on the core skills is tennis IQ. Tennis IQ means, what is my tennis intelligence? And I gotta tell you, top players are students of the game. They know how to analyze opponents. When they walk on a court with somebody they don't know, they know what to look for. Do you know what to look for? And if you don't have that in your awareness field, there are about 42, even more things that I can give you a list of things that you look at with the opponent, and then you can figure out how to play them. But tennis IQ also means, do I understand tactically how I want to play myself? Do I understand in certain situations, situational awareness? It's 5-all, 30-all. Being a student of the game, understanding the game, you understand how pressure works. Number 7, core skill, physical ability to compete. And this is a difficult one because a lot of people neglect it. They only work on one type of fitness, maybe only endurance, maybe only speed. But you need all of it. We look at the top players, and man, tennis players are incredible athletes. They're of the best athletes in the world. So you can't get to the top and not be well-rounded. We talk about everything. But also under this, physical ability to compete, are you working on your recovery? Injury prevention? Is your body balanced? So you might think, hey, man, there's a lot of stuff that I gotta do. Absolutely. Are you capable of it? Yes, you are. Okay, let's look at number 8. Movement and basic skills. The basics in tennis. Now, this is the big one because a lot of juniors don't get that right. They want to hit the big shots before they can even do the basics right. And they all want to play at a higher level, compete at a higher level, but they haven't even mastered themselves, their own basics. You must master the basics. Those are the foundation that makes the big shots work out. The basics are simple things like timing, spacing, movement. So, number 9, mental. Under the mental core skill, we see most of the top players do well. And remember, this is the most important one, because it is your thinking that will separate you from average in a good way. So under mental, are you tough? Under mental, are you disciplined? Under mental, what is your attitude? And do you ever compromise your attitude? So, again, when you look at all these things in planning your project, develop a little report card, evaluate yourself, and then put a plan in place. And talk to somebody with a high tennis IQ or tennis age to help you, guide you through this. Even get a mentor, somebody that's been there. Maybe just reach out to a player. Say, hey, I know this is a long shot, but will you be my tennis mentor? I'm an aspiring tennis player. Can I just once a week, once a month talk to you? You should tell me a little bit about, give me a few ways to see things different. Why not? If you don't put your line in the water, you can't catch a fish. So, this is not enough though, with your development. Part of your development includes practice, preparation, but it also includes exposure at tournaments. Because unless you go and test yourself under pressure, and by the way, for you as a junior, it's not about winning yet. Until you get to the last level, the highest level, now it is about winning. Because you want to use every tournament, every match as a stepping stone, as a measurement for how your skills are holding up under pressure. So stop thinking about winning and being the champion. That's ego. No, make it about your development. Make it about stepping stones. Forget about expectation. No, I'm just working on being better at my skills. And then when under pressure it breaks down, I go back to the drawing board and I make adjustments or become more consistent. So when you plan tournaments, how do you go about it? Do you just go to the tournament, I go to the next highest tournament, or I go to this tournament because Jimmy is going to that tournament, so I guess I'm going to go. Catherine is doing really well and she's going to these tournaments, so I should go to these tournaments because Catherine is doing well. No, it doesn't apply to you. You've got a different project. Be calculated. I'll tell you one story. I moved from New Zealand with my players, top players, because we didn't have the right competitive environment in New Zealand. We could create an incredible practice environment, but the competitive environment wasn't ideal to develop top players. Because guess what? Competing is part of your learning. It's not about winning and losing. It's about your learning. It's about adjustments. Failing and failing better, and then eventually not failing. So, when you plan tournaments, how do you go about it? I'll quickly give you an insight. I used to plan I didn't plan tournaments, and we always say in your practice, you need to be process focused, process driven. So I'm sitting in Osaka, I'm sitting with 3 of my players, top players, but they're not breaking into the top. And I sit with a coach from Belgium, and I go like, hey man, you see what we do. How come my guys are just falling short every time? He goes, are you process driven? I go like, yeah. He goes, in practice? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, you know that, you've seen it. He goes, what about tournaments? And I go like, hold on. He goes, you know that's a big part of development. You need to be process driven. You need to have a process in place for tournaments. And I go like, no, I don't have a process with these guys. He says, I'm going to share something with you. It's called 40-40-20. He says, 40% of the time, I take my players where they can win, where they're the best, they're the strongest, because they can go and work on certain skills. They can learn to dominate. They can also learn to win when they've got everything to lose, because that's a different pressure. He says, and then 40% of the year, I take them where it's competitive, where they learn to battle, they fight, they got to figure it out, they got to problem solve, they build resilience. And then 20% of the time, I take them where they get beaten up, where they get their butts kicked, to check their egos a little bit, to show them, hey, I still need to get better. There's a whole other level above me. So following the 40-40-20, at the right time, go and give your player confidence, give yourself confidence. At the right time, learn to fight. Maybe when you're confident and you've been fighting well, now we go and hit the top. We go and see how that works out. And it gives you again a measurement. It doesn't define you. It just says, hey, go back to the drawing board. So unless you do that with your project, with your tournaments, you might be practicing really well, but you can still fail. And I'll tell you guys, I made that adjustment with my players, and all of a sudden they're jumping in. We didn't change the way we practice. We were practicing the right way. All of a sudden the guys are breaking into the top 10. Big difference just because we changed how we go about tournaments. We were process driven. Now the next question to you is, how many tournaments are you playing? Are you planning that? How many tournaments should you be playing? And again, why do we sometimes avoid tournaments? We avoid it because we don't want to deal with the pressure. But that's part of your development. And then eventually, you're okay dealing with it because you've built a tolerance to be tougher. So, you must be more calculated, guys. Be more calculated about your project. And the thing though is, if you don't own your project and you're not the one that's calculated about it, right? Let's fix that first. It doesn't matter if you're 11, 14, 17 years old. It's your project. Be smart about it. All right, guys.